Today I'm answering a question that came off of a comment on my YouTube channel. That question is, should I start a Facebook page for my podcast? Just my podcast alone. This falls under the category of branding. And let's answer some of those questions and try to decode what you should do when it comes to that Facebook page. It's all coming up next. Hey there, podcaster. My name is Shannon, radio broadcaster, podcaster, and podcast producer. And today's video is brought to you by the 6 clever ways to monetize a podcast that you can grab right now on my website. The link for that ebook guide is down in the description below. And of course, it is an ebook guide that lays out the strategies and tactics to monetize your podcast so you can continue sustaining and creating content for your very own podcast, given that there are elements that you're going to have to pay for when it comes down to starting a podcast. So go ahead and check it out down below. The link is in the description and get it today. So today we're talking about whether or not you should start a Facebook page for your podcast. This is a question that comes from The Fallen Hells in Mexico. And he asked the question, should I make a Facebook page just for a podcast? And that's a very specific question that he is asking because I know there's a lot of people out there that they have this difficulty and the struggle as to whether or not they should create the name of a podcast and then create a whole brand new Facebook page just for that. Now, this falls under the category of personal branding versus company branding. I mean, I don't know if there's another word or a term for it, but company branding itself is what I'll call it for today. Now, I think first we should define what personal branding is and then what a company brand is, all right? So let's take, for example, what a personal brand is. And you probably know this more than anything else. We can use examples such as Beyonce, The Rock. You could say like Zac Efron. You could say anyone who's a big personal brand, all right? And I like to use The Rock as an example. And we all know The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, also known as Dwayne Johnson. We also know him as the wrestler. We know him as the actor. We know that he loves weights. We know that he has he is sponsored by certain workout gear, and it could go on and on and on and on. And we know all these elements about The Rock. All right. Now, we look at, say, someone like Michael Jordan. He has shoes. He's into basketball. He loves golf. He loves baseball, all these things. So we all associate these things to this personal brand, all of those elements with that particular personal brand. Now, let's come to me as my own personal brand. And I've been asked multiple times, why don't you just create the name of a big brand and then you're underneath that brand? Well, for me, because I've been in radio for so long, I already fall underneath an entity that allows me to maneuver underneath that brand. So the radio station itself is the big brand, but that's not the one that I handle. My own personal brand, the Shannon brand, allows me to not only have my listeners associate me with rock music, but they also associate me with my Facebook live feeds. Some of the people associate me with my YouTube channel, like you guys. You associate me with my YouTube channel and podcasting and a number of areas in my life where I like personal development and going to conferences and learning about content development. There's so many things that I can talk about because I am my own personal brand. Now, there are some upsides and there are some downsides to personal branding, okay? The upside is that it's yours. Like the personal brand is yours, and so you're putting your own stamp of approval, and you are allowed to maneuver underneath your own brand with other areas that you would love to promote. So for me, it would be like the Swing Shift Side Hustle podcast, and that directly goes out to the people who listen to me on the radio. They not only listen to me on the radio, but they get additional content from me that is an interview format from musicians and artists so that they can get deeper and dive deeper and build a deeper connection and relationship with me. But there's also the area where I have the Facebook Lives. There's also the area that I love nutrition and fitness and going out and hiking and all those things. So I'm able to maneuver underneath my own name of my brand. The upside, that's the upside. The downside is, what if I wanted to sell all of the elements that I create with my brand? Now, likely there's not going to be that chance because there's not a whole lot there that I could sell. I don't have any products that are associated terribly with the music side of my brand. But on the professional side, I do have products. I do have digital products that I sell. Will I be able to sell those later down the line? Well, according to this talk that I had seen back in, the beginning of April, as of this recording, I saw the digital marketer Neil Patel speak at a conference in Irvine, California, and he broke down the differences between personal brand and big name brands, all right? And he says that he wishes that he would have just gone ahead and created a big name brand as opposed to just having his brand, like the Neil Patel marketing agency or whatever he has called it. He actually lists this out on a blog post for himself. He wrote it out, and then of course he did a talk on it, like I said, a few weeks ago. I'm going to leave a link for that in the description below, and you can read what it's all about so that you can get a better understanding, and at least how I have perceived it. Now, if you have a big name brand itself, let's say, for instance, your podcast, and your podcast, we'll just use mine as an example, the Swing Shift Side Hustle. Let's say that you create a Facebook page for that particular podcast itself. Will you be able to maneuver underneath the brand itself by sharing out different pieces of content? Because whenever you create a podcast, remember, we are creating podcasts that are very specific. They are very niche oriented. So will you be able to share out a political post onto the Swing Shift Side Hustle when that Swing Shift Side Hustle podcast is all about music? It probably won't work with your audience because they will not react to it very well. And from an algorithmic standpoint, Facebook is going to look at that and say like, no, it just doesn't, it's not going to really resonate with the audience where the algorithm is looking to push that content to those particular people who are looking for it. So you have to really understand what is the benefit of having a name brand, the name of your podcast, and who will it serve? I think that's the most important question that you have to ask yourself. What will your podcast name and the podcast itself, who will it serve, and how will it serve them? That is a very important question that we always have to ask ourselves when we create a brand new brand. So understand this: when you go in and you create a Facebook page for your podcast, ask yourself the question, who will it serve, and how will it serve them? Those are the two questions that you should be asking yourself. What is the benefit? What is the cost of having that name brand? Now, if it was just you probably could maneuver all over into different areas. Let's say that I just happen to get a job in TV, and I decided to go ahead and start doing reporting. Well, now I can maneuver in that area as a personal brand. As a big name brand, you can't do that. Now, Neil also breaks down a couple of other elements to this. All right. And I've mentioned them a little bit before. With a personal brand, you can't sell your assets. With a big name brand or a company brand, you can sell those assets and you can shift it off to someone else. So let's say I had specifically created the Swing Shift Side Hustle without a Shannon brand, and I wanted to get away from the Swing Shift Side Hustle. I could just push that away. Well, first of all, I would get a whole brand new host, and I would tell the audience, say, look, we got a brand new host. His name is Chris, and he's going to be taking over. And while I go off and do my own thing, and I wish you luck. And Chris takes over the Swing Shift Side Hustle. The brand continues on. It's just like, I don't know if you remember the TV it was the TV show, and of course it was the radio show Loveline. And Loveline years ago started out with a radio jock out of LA. He's a podcaster now. And then it went to Ricky Rackman, and then it went to Adam Carolla, and then it went to Mike Catherwood. But the brand itself stayed the same over the years. They still talked about the same topic, but the brand itself stayed the same over the years. And those personalities were able to leave and go do their own thing. So try to understand the differences between a personal brand and a company brand or your podcast brand. What is the benefit and what is the cost of the brand, and decide how you want to maneuver underneath that brand. Determining whether you want a personal brand or a company brand should be the first thing that you're thinking about. I think when you decide that you want to do a podcast, you can name it as a podcast and then have your own personal brand associated with it. But you have to decide this in the very beginning, because then as you go further down the line, it is harder to maneuver out of, say, a company brand and into your own personal thing, because you are starting to rebuild over and over from the very beginning. If you like this video, go ahead and leave it a thumbs up down below, or share with me actually your thoughts on the topic itself. Now, I don't think this is all word of God stuff and that you have to follow every word that I had to say. Certainly, this is just my own opinion, and I know that you will have your own reasons why you have either a personal brand or a company brand itself. So just know that these are my reasons of why I have it, and there's no better way of doing it other than doing for what works for you. Okay. So if you have any questions or you want to comment down below, I'd be interested in hearing why you either have a company brand for your podcast or you are a personal brand, so you can help the other people who are watching this video and give them some idea as to whether or not they should start a Facebook page for their podcast. All right. This is where this is all originating from. So you have to decide that from the very beginning. Leave those comments and it'll definitely help those people out who are looking for the answer. Again, if you like this video, go ahead and leave it a thumbs up down below. And of course, hit the subscribe button so you can subscribe to whenever I send out out these videos. And if you subscribe, you might as well just make the extra little step to hit the bell button. That will notify you whenever I drop a brand new video. So in the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it very much, and I always welcome your comments. They mean so much to me, and I do sometimes feature you and highlight you guys in a video or an upcoming video. In the meantime, have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.